the Upanishads they talk about miracles. They also do in the Tao. They talk about in Hebrew scriptures, in the New Testament, with the miracles that Jesus has performed. And even in Hinduism with the yogis, there is a wonderful feeling of miracles abound. And I thought it was interesting that the Buddha said, oh, I didn't do anything, there's nothing. And yet there were so many miracles attributed to the Buddha. And a little bit like Muhammad, he said that his life wasn't a great miracle, but what happened is after he passed, there were so many miracles done in his name, and particularly the Quran. That was a miracle, what was going on. And think of the Church of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. And what was based on miracles is they came from St. Louis and came out to Utah. I mean, miracles have been in so many different religions, but what is a miracle? It's supernatural, isn't it? It's beyond what we think and what we believe, because miracles, they are kind of in the face of any kind of scientific law. They just are these amazing things that happen. But they also tell us what? That the divine does exist. However you want to refer to the divine. Mother, Father, Creator, Divine. However, when you have a miracle, you usually say, thank you. Hopefully you do. You say thank you. Because every one of you is truly a miracle. That's what we started out with the meditation. You are a miracle. Think of what it took to get here. Okay, do every one of you know that you were a winner? Think about it. You were the sperm that made it. Yeah, how many millions do they say? And you were the one. You persevered, so know that.
Like, I knew I could do it.
And here you are. You haven't died from any car accidents. You haven't had a deadly disease. You've made it through all of these things, and no unexpected failure of your organs. You're here. I mean, look at all the things you went through to be here.
Yes.
And think of the chance encounters of the people you meet as miracles. Ronnie's not here. Quite often I talk about the miracle of my having met him. I heard him sing. That's a miracle in itself because I'm tone deaf. But I walked in and said, hi, I'm Dottie Boon and we're going to be friends. And we were. And I did the same thing to a friend of mine, Byron Floyd. I was working at Lockheed. And here's this gorgeous young African-American guy. And he's so quiet and he's afraid somebody might find out he's gay. And he was so in the closet. And I walked up and go, hi, you going to Gay Pride this year? He got so shook that he knocked off a full bottle of ketchup on the flagstone. Shattered it. And you know, that looks like somebody died. You know, I think it's right then he died, you know. And but I thought of the miracle of me finding Byron. I mean, he and I changed each other's lives. I mean, there's things like that that happen that are so miraculous. And think of the chance encounters you've had. I have one that was amazing. Are you ready for an amazing miracle? I was at the Riviera in Las Vegas, and I came around a corner and flattened Sammy Davis Jr. He just hit me and bounced back. You know, oh, excuse me while I get a Kleenex down here. What are you? I am rather a source to reckon with. I mean, you're in high heels, and he was not very big. So I thought, but what's the chance of that happening? Being right there at that time. And it was one of those weekends of miracles that happened all the time.
How did the rest of the interaction go?
He was fine. He just said hi and walked off. Or staggered.
He's a tap dancer. He could do anything.
Yeah, he could dance. But it was kind of fun. It was one of those weekends I was gambling. Not that your pastor gambles. I was playing blackjack next to a very nice looking lady with very short hair. And all of a sudden this arm came between us and this voice said, we're going to go now. I thought, I've heard that voice before. And this young woman says, no, I'm not going, Frank. And I turned around and looked right into Frank Sinatra's eyes. And it was Mia Farrow, and he was asking me to leave the tape. So for most of you, that's way before your time, but it was a long time ago. And I thought, look at what I'm doing. I'm right here.
And
When you think of the people you love, How did you meet your spouse? Was it a miracle?
Yes.
Did you just happen to be at the same place? How did you meet your boyfriend or girlfriend? Or how did you meet the person that hired you for a job? Some people talk about miracles that they encountered in getting a job. Think of all the miracles in your life that have happened. And you take responsibility and say, I created a miracle. I moved my life forward by taking a chance, doing something. Because you are a living miracle. And I want all of you to think of that. There's nothing you have to do to be a miracle except just love yourself. And what happens when you start loving and appreciating yourself? It's like the miracles start to disappear. But every day you're right on. Hey, look at this. Life is wonderful. What does life do? It shows up for you. Very, very beautiful way. And that's the miraculous part of it. So you have to kind of stop and breathe sometime and say, yeah, I'm here. I'm the one that made it. I didn't have to do anything but show up and know that my spirit is complete and healthy and whole. And when you do that, think about all the different things that have happened in your life where you did survive and you didn't think you were going to. It could be in the loss of a parent, it could have been the loss of a spouse. Many things, and the loss of a child that happened and you think, I can't survive this. And yet that miracle of love and your connection with Spirit brought you through it. So yeah, I know each one of you has had one. So right now, I want you to repeat after me, I am a miracle.
I am a miracle.
I am a miracle.
I am a miracle.
Stand up and shout, I am a miracle! Woo! Yay! How's that feel? Whoa, yeah.
Wow.
You know, doesn't that feel like, woohoo, I can say it and I can be it. Because you can say it, you can do it, and you can be it. And quite often, we're going to start working with quantum physics more and more as we move through life. And we're going to find out miracles aren't quite as miraculous. There's a whole other energy that's going to be coming up and helping us out. And what I want you to do is remember and appreciate the miracles that you've had in your life. I have one that I shared with some people last week. My boys borrowed the car to go get to Taco Bell, and my kids at that time, my eldest was 18 and my youngest was 16. And when they kind of left the driveway on two wheels, I knew we might be in trouble. And then all of a sudden it hit me they were going to be in an accident. And I walked across the street to my neighbor and I said, I need to have you drive me. I know my kids are going to be in an accident. And she looked at me. And I said, God, let them learn the lesson they need to learn, but don't let them be hurt. And by the time she got her keys and she got in the car and we drove down to the end of our block, we could hear the sirens. Wow. And we turned left on Kylie, went down to Stevens Creek. And what happened, my son Bart had turned left on the yellow light and somebody else had come through and hit him and just T-boned him. And they were sitting out on the curb. And I said to my youngest, what happened? He said, Mom, I don't know. But we turned and I saw this car and all of a sudden a hand picked me up and put me in my brother's lap.
Whoa.
And I looked and the car had pushed all the way to the steering wheel.
Wow.
And the only way he was saved was somebody picked him up. Now, a 16-year-old boy does not crawl into his 18-year-old brother's lap. I don't care, you know. And I looked at my eldest and I said, how angry are you? And he said, really angry. I said, how stupid do you feel? He said, really stupid. I said, let's get rid of all of that. Get in the car and start kicking the side of the car out. And he goes, okay. And he took all of his force and he kicked and moved the side of the car out and enough so that we could drive it home because it impacted the right wheel. And the firemen and the police said, what just happened? There's nobody's damage. Everything is, I said, yeah, it was a miracle. And they looked at me like, uh-huh. I don't think many of your people, crisis intervention, I don't know that there are people talking about miracles, but that was what it was. And the other one that happened was my mother had given birth to a stillborn child. and had a clamp shut. And her body had started going sepsis, and this was in 1942. And the doctor said, we don't think we're going to be able to save her. And my dad called my uncle Clifford Bartlett, who was a very famous physician in Pasadena, and he was quite often given new drugs to try because he was such a good diagnostician, and he had a lab and everything else, and we were in Culver City. And he called me, he said, Uncle Cliff, they say that my wife's going to die. And he told him, and he said, you're going to have a taxi cab there shortly. And this cab came in, and there was a little tiny package in the back seat. And my dad rushed it up to the doctor and said, here, I'm told this is a miracle drug. And the doctor looked at it and said, I've never heard of it before, and it's not approved. And my dad said, we know it's not approved, but my uncle, Clifford Bartlett, said to please use it on her. And he said, I've never heard it before. What's it called? He said, penicillin.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you go and look, in 1943 it was approved, but in 1942 it saved my mom's life. The consequences of all of that, the miracle of what had happened, because she wasn't sure whether she wanted to stay on the planet. She just lost a child. And so she's going through the grief and the pain and everything else, and then they tell her she's not going to live. Well, most people would just check out. And when my dad said, help is on the way, Uncle Cliff, that's what he said. And we all have something similar, I'm sure, of different miracles that have happened. And some of you, if you've never had a miracle in your life, go somewhere miraculous. There are miraculous places. If you're in Mexico City, go see the Virgin de la Guadalupe, Our Lady of Guadalupe. You walk in this beautiful place, and there's this little tiny picture of the face of the Virgin. Little tiny. And it's under thick bulletproof glass. And I walked in there, and it was during Easter week, so people were crawling in on their hands and knees, and I thought, that's silly, till I got face up and felt the energy, and it was like, it's one of those very miraculous icons. It is incredible. So if you've never been in Mexico City and gotten a chance to behold that, do it. The other one we went to was the Healing Dirt Church in New Mexico. And the Shamayo Healing Dirt Church is incredible. And what happens is that it was, they found that they took some of the dirt from the right next to the river, and they put it on people and they would heal. And so they started having people appear, and more people came. Well, where they were getting the dirt from, the river came along, and they didn't have that nice damp soil, and they thought, uh-oh, what are we going to do? So they dug a hole in the center of the church, and they went out to the river and hauled the dirt in and put it in the church. So they got a hole about like this, and they bring it in 5-gallon buckets, and they put it in there, and it still works. People are still healed by this dirt.
Whoa.
So is it because it is so special? They've had it tested. No, it's dirt. But the energy there in this little tiny adobe church. But to me, the miracle was the crucifix on the wall.
Yeah.
The Christ is black, dark brown. It's made out of ironwood. Because the Native Americans who became Christians said, we don't want a white Christ crucifix. We want one that represents us. And to walk in and feel the energy from that was absolutely incredible. When I mentioned Our Lady of Guadalupe, do all of you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, where the Virgin appeared and put her face on this piece of fabric, and that's why it has a picture of the Virgin. Just in case you hadn't heard about what that was. Many of you heard Father Mickey. A friend of ours is over at the Lady of Peace Church in Santa Clara, the one with the beautiful statue.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the most amazing Catholic priest. He is incredible. What he does, he works with the Vatican to declare whether things are religious shrines or not. And he helps beatify people before they're canonized to become saints. So he has touched more religious objects than just about anybody we know, including that every 25 years he's there when they unveil the Shroud of Turin. He is one of those priests that is at that point that he can handle it or touch it if they let you do that. When he appeared here, he appeared all in white. He said, the only person that can wear all white is the Pope. But if you notice, all of my buttons will have a little dark line around them. Because he did all of his training in the Vatican. And so when he talks about all of these different things that are sent to him, he has invited us to go to Stockton to the museum and look at it. He has about 2,000 sacred objects that people have sent when they have miracles. And what he said is you can just feel it. And he says, I just go there, yeah, this is the real thing, yeah. This isn't the real thing, yeah, this is the... He said, you just feel and sense what is truly a religious object by people who have had miracles. And so think about that with the religious icon. Have you ever felt anything like that you knew was special? What did you feel, Annie, that you knew was special?
Oh my gosh. Well, we've been to Stonehenge and felt the amazing energy and had the stones sing to us. And let me run the drop.
Yeah.
So in Stonehenge, we've had, amazing things happen. I mean, Dottie, how many miracles have we had? What about the Lumerians and just incredible miracles that have occurred in many of our spiritual journeys. But just in my life, walking into a church for the first time I went to a metaphysical church and hearing the choir sing, Jan and Kat singing, and I joined the choir, and here we are. They ended up introducing me to Dottie. I went there, it was a full circle. But incredible miracles happen all the time. But spiritual, I've picked up stones and just felt the ages, just pass through you, and you can get visions of what that stone has been through. I had a stone that knew that I was upset and angry in Avebury one time, and I had put a medallion that I wanted to leave there, and it flew 15 feet and said, no, I don't want this negative energy. And I had to take it back and bring it home and clear the energy on it. And when I went back to Avebury several years later, I was able to find the same stone, and I could feel the love and how it felt like, yes, you have healed this. So, I mean, I could go on for hours. So, miracles exist. There's no doubt.
Thank you. Kat, do you want to pass those around? Anybody else have a miracle? Yes, Sean.
I lost a cell phone in a New York taxi cab, and I got it back 2 days later.
Well, for me, if anything, my miracle was being turned around. And for me, I was actually 230 pounds, having stress-induced urinary attacks at the age of 20. And I was not really connected to God or anything. I wanted to be more scientific. If I couldn't feel it or touch it or see it, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. But it was when that spirit came into me and I knew that I was supposed to see it, basically told me I was meant to be a healer, not only with the spirit but also the hands. That kind of